FSMA Produce Safety Rule and what it means for your farm.
If you're a grower, harvester, packer, or holder cooler, you are considered a farm under the Produce Safety Rule, also known as the PSR. It's likely you have questions about the PSR and what it means for you in your produce operation. In the next few minutes, we'll provide you with information you need to know about the new produce safety legislation, the types of produce being regulated, what the compliance requirements are, and deadlines for being in compliance. You'll also learn the benefits of participating in a free on-farm assessment that will help prepare your produce operation to be in compliance when inspections begin. Before we begin explaining the Produce Safety Rule, it's important to understand why the regulation was created. Between 1996 and 2014, produce-related foodborne illnesses outbreaks were on the rise. During that time, approximately 173 produce-related outbreaks occurred. These outbreaks resulted in 17,164 illnesses, 2,067 hospitalizations, and tragically, 68 deaths. Sprouts and leafy greens accounted for 50% of the foodborne outbreaks in America, followed by tomatoes and melons at 10% each. Those of us in the produce industry know how devastating foodborne illness outbreaks can be to human life and the businesses and workers that depend on the industry for their livelihood. When consumers lose confidence in the safety of produce, it can take years to get it back. With national consumer health and our nation's economic well-being in mind, the prevention and control of foodborne illness outbreaks became a legislative priority.
On January 4, 2011, President Barack Obama signed into law the Food Safety Modernization Act, FSMA, considered to be the most sweeping reform of the U.S. food safety in more than 70 years. 7 separate regulations were written under the FSMA law in 2016, each of which will affect the vast and complex food chain that provides consumers with safe, nutritious food.
One of the 7 regulations, entitled Standards for Growing, Harvesting, Packing, and Holding of Produce for Human Consumption, is the Produce Safety Rule, more simply known as PSR. The PSR establishes for the first time science-based minimum food safety standards for growing, harvesting, packing, and holding of fresh fruits and vegetables. The PSR focuses on reducing and preventing microbiological pathogen risks versus reacting to them after they occur. As a major producer and distributor of fresh produce across the United States, Arizona is directly impacted by the PSR. Arizona's annual produce is significant. Across the nation, Arizona is ranked second for production of spinach, iceberg, leaf, and romaine lettuce, ranked second for production of cantaloupe, and ranked 8th for production of cabbage.
Produce that is consumed raw is considered riskier than processed fruits and vegetables when pathogenic microorganisms are diminished by a kill step, high temperature heat, drying, or sanitation. Most fruits and vegetables are covered under the PSR, including melons, leafy greens, tomatoes, fresh peppers, citrus, apples, and other tree fruits.
Recognizing the importance of gaining industry support, the Arizona Department of Agriculture, AZDA, held public stakeholder meetings and received unanimous support in its quest to manage the PSR rollout in Arizona. In 2016, the FDA awarded a grant to AZDA to fund the 5-year implementation of PSR here in our state. Additionally, Senate Bill 1063 was signed into law, giving AZDA primacy over PSR. Our rollout process provides industry outreach, training, education, and inspection. Compliance deadlines with the PSR are based on 3-year average annual produce sales or services rendered, as in the case of a harvester or holder.
Large farms with sales greater than $500,000 must meet the compliance deadline, which was January 26, 2018. Small farms with sales between $250,000 and $500,000 must have met compliance by January 28, 2019.
Very small farms with sales between $25,000 and $250,000 must be compliant by January 27, 2020. Farms whose sales are less than $25,000 are not covered by the PSR. In response to industry feedback, the FDA has placed the agricultural water standards under further review and revision. Therefore, an additional 2 years were added to each of the deadlines involving water testing, giving growers more time to meet a final agricultural water standard. The PSR is divided into key requirements that are intended to prevent contamination of produce during production, harvesting, and post-harvest handling. Agricultural water, biological soil amendments of animal origin, wild and domestic animal intrusion, worker training, health, and hygiene, Sanitation and cleaning. Sprouts. The PSR requires growers to periodically monitor the quality of pre- and post-harvest agricultural water through microbiological testing. Agricultural water is any water that is intended to or likely to contact the harvestable part of the crop. Pre-harvest uses original irrigation, chemical crop sprays, cooling, and frost control. Post-harvest uses include washing or cooling harvested produce or cleaning food contact surfaces. Hand washing and drinking water are also important uses of water on the farm. The source from which agricultural water is obtained is strongly associated with its potential to become contaminated. For surface water, PSR requires farms to do an initial survey using a minimum of 20 samples collected as close as practicable to harvest over the course of 2 to 4 years.
For untreated groundwater, PSR requires farms to do an initial survey using a minimum of 4 samples during the growing season or over a period of 1 year. The one exception is municipal water. Because it is treated by the municipality, growers are not required to test it.
Soil amendments such as fertilizers, composts, and other additives play an important role in crop production. Animal manure that has not been properly and fully treated poses the highest microbiological risk. The PSR provides treatment processes that are acceptable for biological soil amendments of animal origin used in the growing of covered produce. Human waste is prohibited for use on produce crops unless it meets EPA regulations for biosolids. Wild or domesticated animals and birds can pose microbiological risks because they serve as reservoirs for human pathogens. Intrusion of these animals can occur in the field, packing areas, storage, or holding facilities. Controlling wildlife is a complex process and may require multiple strategies. The PSR does not prohibit the use of working animals on the farm, but those risks must be assessed and minimized. Pre-harvest assessments are crucial, as is taking corrective actions when contamination sources are identified. All personnel who harvest or handle fresh produce regulated by the PSR, including supervisors, must be trained in the rules of food hygiene and food safety. The training program must be appropriate for the job, conducted upon hiring, include annual refresher training, re-instructed when problems arise, and documented. Upon completion, trained workers should understand the symptoms of foodborne illness and the importance of personal hygiene for all personnel and visitors. Post-harvest sanitation and cleaning of packing and holding facilities is important. Thorough cleaning and sanitizing of all food contact surfaces of equipment and the environment is essential for food safety. Establishing and documenting clean breaks can help limit the amount of products subject to recall or withdrawal. Other steps include, but are not limited to, sweeping, trash disposal, providing cleaning hand wash and bathroom facilities, implementing a pest management program, avoiding standing water, and keeping the facility organized. The Sprout Safety Alliance has developed a curriculum course to assist sprout farms on how to be in compliance with the PSR. A separate course has been developed for sprouts to respond to the historical higher incidence of foodborne illness connected to consuming raw sprouts. Contact the Sprout Safety Alliance for more information. The Produce Safety Rural Grower Training Course is not just for growers, but also for harvesters, packers, and holders of produce, and is offered periodically at locations throughout the state. Each farm is required to have one person attend a grower training class, but you may send more. The attendees may include your company's food safety representative, food safety trainers, regulatory compliance officer, or quality assurance person. So now that you know the PSR requirements and deadlines, you're probably wondering where to start. Keeping with our Educate Before and While We Regulate motto, AZDA is here to help you. After you've taken the PSR Grower Training course, and whether your operation is subject to PSR regulatory inspections or not, we encourage you to take advantage of our free on-farm readiness review. PSR experts will evaluate growing, pre-harvest, harvest, and post-harvest conditions. We will evaluate what you're doing well and show you areas to align your farm plan with the requirements of the PSR. It's an excellent opportunity to make sure your farm is implementing good agricultural practices to protect consumers and your profitability. The On-Farm Readiness Review is a chance for you to have a one-on-one conversation and farm assessment to ensure you're in compliance with the PSR. Call the Arizona Department of Agriculture or check out their website today.